Jerry Smith. I'm the superintendent of the YWCA Yonkers, New York. I am speaking today as a long-time protester against injustice and inequality. I also marched in the march from Selma to Washington, D.C. in 1963. I was a part of that march as a young kid, and I experienced some of the things that we experience today in our society. So I just want to talk to you about some of the differences that we faced then and some of the similarities and differences that they're having now. So let me start by saying that when people talk about protest and peaceful protest, it reminds me of the protests we had before the 60s, which were peaceful, when people that was working in cotton fields and as servants only slowed down on work or didn't perform at their maximum as a sense of protest against it. In 1960s, we started doing what they call radical protests and radical demonstrations, where we went on the offense, where we believed that in order for somebody to hear us, we need to be more aggressive. And that brought about some burning of buildings, resisting police arrests, and stuff of that nature. So I just want to talk about the difference, the benefits that we was obtained, and compare that to the benefits that we're getting now from the 2002 demonstration that we're having. So one, I want to start by saying that most of the demonstrations in the 60s was led by the elders in the community and local clergy, meaning that most of the decision making, the planning and all that stuff were done by people that was older. We as children was brought in to learn and to be taught that we had to fight for what we thought we wanted to have happen or what we believed in. So the elders at that time, I consider to be average age of 47. So we marched. They often put us in the center of these marches so we wouldn't be harmed, but they put us close enough to the march so we could learn. A lot of those marches was deemed to be community marches because we didn't have mass media. So when you had a march or a protest, it was local, but other people may be having marches in other areas, in other states and other communities, but they wasn't united. So one of the problems we had was everything was deemed to be local, so the response and stuff was local or indirect. So we didn't get the results that we'd be looking for a lot of times because they were deemed to be local marches and that we was the problem makers in that community, and that had no effect on anybody else. Usually during that time, we was trying to implement something from a local standpoint, meaning that we wanted the local officials to hear and make some kind of changes to our situation. So when they didn't do it prior to 60, we decided in the 60s that we want to be aggressive, bring out the offensive part, and the burning of homes and buildings stuff became a part of that. We also had, we accepted input from college students and people. I remember the time that I met with Angela Davis, Stokely Carmichael, Huey Newton, and they gave us strategies about how we could move forward as young kids after we had made the first march. So we had desires and direction as kids, but it's not as it is today. Today our protests and marches are being ran basically by our youth. They are formulating the marches, they are creating the events, and they are leaders. And that's a lot different than it was in the 60s, because these youth now are going on information, education, and experiences that they have obtained through socialization. The difference between the 60s movement and today probably has a lot to do with socialization. These days the kids are living, they're having communication with different people in different ethnic people in different communities. They grow up together, and so their input from how you should live and what you should do in reference to color or race is a lot different. So it gives them a better advantage, because now they are not fighting a built-in system. They are fighting pockets of racism and discrimination. The other thing is that mass media have allowed for these protests, demonstration to go countrywide, to go countywide, to go statewide, to go countrywide. And that bring inclusion in of a lot of different people that could help you make your protest successful. If you look at most of the protests and demonstration they're having today, you see multiple races. You see most of the people that's in these demonstrations could be outsiders. So it took away that locality aspect, and it took away for people ability, especially the government officials, to restrict and restrain it and control the conversation. So the results are better. These kids are able to get a better result, and they're able to get it more quickly and directly. Okay, so that if you compare the two, I would say the demonstrations in the 60s, like the demonstration in 2020, was radical demonstration. It's no difference. The only difference between the demonstration in the 60s and the 2000 demonstration in the 60s, we intentionally started burning fires and stuff to get attention. Today, people are doing things and it's a reaction because they see it as something that we did as demonstrators, and it was successful. So both are the same, and we're using the same type methods, but people are trying to just put a different angle on what they want it to be.